We would love you to sponsor us out there. If you're interested in sponsoring our little YouTube channel, lkgstudios@gmail.com. That's the email. You'll get a prompt reply. We would look forward to working with you. Thank you very much. Spain, Japan.
Today we have to listen to so many things, most of which are negative. But why not listen to something positive, something that charges your batteries, something that puts a smile on your face? LKG Studios presents Positive Energy Thinking on YouTube and www.lkgstudios.com.
Here's some open and candid feedback.
Rodent Sports is back to talk about a couple of the big issues. The first one being the big issue from week 16 of the NFL season, and that was Tua Tagovailoa throwing 3 interceptions in the second half for Miami to lose to the Green Bay Packers at home on Christmas, and then getting put in the concussion protocol. Cue the massive pile-on from all directions, condemning Miami, saying how terrible they are, led by people like Trey Wingo at ProFootballNetwork.com, and put all of my cards on the table. I actually used to do podcasts for them once upon a time. And the Monday morning quarterbacking on this has been terrible, and I'll tell you why. Because I was watching the game live like over 20-some million people were. I saw that play happen. I'll be honest, I didn't notice that his head had hit the ground at all. The announcers didn't make a big deal out of it. The halftime people didn't make a big deal out of it. There certainly wasn't any kind of a firestorm over Tua getting back out there on social media. Very few people said anything about it at the time. And very few people who were criticizing Miami said anything about it at the time. It is only in the aftermath that they put him in the concussion protocol that all this heat has come down and calls for investigations in these things.
You wouldn't dare!
Now, it is entirely possible that Miami did this as a precaution because he's already had a concussion this year and he has a second one. You're getting into the danger zone. Repeated concussions are the biggest problem for players while they're playing and after they're playing. And they can have the most terrible consequences down the line, and you want to try to avoid that at all costs. So I think they put him in the concussion protocol, honestly, to be cautious, which is good because the last time they didn't do that and they rightfully got scorned because everybody saw that hit when they played Buffalo in the first game and knew he shouldn't have been back out there. And the fact that he was and then played 4 days later was atrocious.
I'm considering putting him on a leash.
But that's not what happened here. This wasn't that. It wasn't a huge hit. It wasn't something that was so obvious that the whole world was screaming about it, television, social media, whatever. This is Monday morning quarterbacking of the highest order. And to be honest, most of us out here don't know a lot about how the brain works and how these things work even now. Even though there's been a lot of science on it and we've learned a lot more in the last decade to 20 years than what we knew previously, we still don't know a whole lot about it. So I think the pile on the Dolphins is unfair. They are going to be investigated by the NFL because the NFL has to investigate these things. But I think what they're going to find is that there weren't any obvious signs. It wasn't as if everybody could see him, walking, struggling to walk to the sideline or having trouble, seeing the finger when you do the chest and all these other things. And I think it was probably okay that he went back out there. And look, it's entirely possible he didn't have a concussion at all. He just threw 3 really bad passes that got intercepted because quarterbacks do that. Yes, 3 interceptions and a half is kind of crazy, but again, it happens. And I just don't think the Miami Dolphins are getting treated right here by people in the media. And, it's not far be it for me to be the one to stick up for them, but I just don't think it's been fair. So I think people need to lay off the coaching staff and the doctor and all this other stuff. Let's just see what happens. I will say that if the Dolphins are smart, don't put Tua Tagovailoa back out there this season. You do not want him getting another concussion if he's had one or if he's had two, because that could be the end of his career. I think back to what happened to Washington's Jordan Reed, who was a really talented tight end who kept getting concussions and kept getting put back out there. And when he got hit in Atlanta in the preseason on a dirty hit, he basically didn't play for 2 years and then played a handful of games for the 49ers and was out of the league, done. And you don't want to have that happen. I would be remiss if I didn't say a few words about Pele, who died this week. He was the greatest. And when I mean the greatest, I mean the greatest. In the world in the 20th century, you're talking about Pele and Muhammad Ali. You could go to any place in the world, any corner of the world, they would be recognized. It didn't matter who you're talking about, what kind of people they were. They recognized two men, Muhammad Ali and Pele, and both of those guys were the greatest.
Yes.
And Pele quite literally brought North American soccer, especially American soccer, out of the dark ages and somewhat towards the modern times that we would eventually reach. The North American Soccer League, which was created, he carried it, playing for the New York Cosmos and doing it in his late 30s. Like he came, what he did is what David Beckham did not do. Pele came to the North American Soccer League at pretty much the end of his career and still produced some of the best soccer he ever played and was an amazing player who drew tens of thousands of people to the sport, tens of thousands of people into the arena. David Beckham drew tens of thousands of people, but he was nowhere near as good as he was when he was playing in England for Manchester United or when he was playing for Real Madrid. There was very little drop-off from the Pele of Santos to the Pele of the New York Cosmos. And that's one of the many reasons why Pele is the greatest and stays the greatest. And, of course, 3 World Cups, which other than Kylian Mbappe, we probably never see anybody ever do that again. Scored an unbelievable amount of goals for Brazil, over 100 in his career. I mean, what else can you say about the man? A great humanitarian and beloved all over the world. I mean, to me, he's the greatest. When you talk about the greatest, Pele was the greatest. And that's the legacy he'll leave over everything that he touched. And, of course, it's a very sad day for Brazil and all the fans in Brazil, and, of course, his family and friends, but especially all the people of Brazil. Again, a national icon of that country. And he'll be missed, but my God, an amazing life, an amazing career, an amazing man, truly the greatest. This is something my producer kind of brought to my attention, the fact that 21 million people watched the Rams kick the holy hell out of the Broncos and get Nathaniel Hackett fired. And the biggest NBA viewing audience was Celtics Bucks, which I think got over 6.3 million or something like that. And yeah, the state of sports watching in this country isn't great. That many people are going to watch a terrible NFL game and not watch 2 of the best teams in the NBA playing each other. Although I will point out that the viewership that NBA game for Celtics Bucks went up significantly from the previous game, because I think a lot of people did switch over since the NFL game was a complete and utter blowout to see, hey, let's see what's going on with 2 of the best teams in the Eastern Conference. And look, this is an anomaly. The NFL's usually not playing on Christmas because Christmas is usually not on a Sunday. Next year, it'll be on Monday night. It'll be on Monday, and there'll be probably one Monday night game. And the NBA will have Christmas to all to itself for the most part, as they should. I like the NBA on Christmas, just like I like the NFL on Thanksgiving, and I don't like the 2 leagues competing with each other. And the NFL should at least have the grace to respect that, but of course the NFL doesn't have the grace to respect anything. And that's the way they are, and that's why some people kind of can't stand them.
Always!
But the NBA's problem is that they've diluted something that used to be special. When I was younger, and first it was CBS and then it was NBC, you had 1, maybe 2 games on Christmas, and those were appointment viewing games. Oftentimes, it was the Chicago Bulls, Jordan's Bulls, against the New York Knicks with Patrick Ewing, John Starks, and Anthony Mason, and all the other great players that they had, and you couldn't miss it. You couldn't miss it. And when I was younger, I was going to Christmas parties where people who never watched sports would watch Bulls Knicks on NBC at 5:30 when it would tip off, because it was special. You knew that you were getting a game again with 2 or 3 of the best teams in the NBA, late in the evening, late in the day, when everybody's kind of had their fill of Christmas and kind of wants to watch something or do something else. And you'd have that game, and you'd have humongous audiences because it was on over-the-air television, NBC, prime time it being on, and it was great. And we've diluted that. Now we're at 5 games on Christmas, and 3 of them are on cable, which less and less people have. More and more people are cutting it off. Yes, streaming makes up for it, and things like Hulu Sports and YouTube television and all that. But it's not the same, and it's not special. It's not special. And here's the problem. When you have 5 games, you know who you're preaching to? You're preaching to the converted. You're preaching to the people who already love the NBA, who are already watching it when it starts, around Halloween and early November. That's who you're preaching to. You're not going to bring the casual fans in because they're not going to see it as special, even if you have great matchup, even if you have great players. Celtics-Bucks was a great matchup. 2 of the best teams in the East. One of them's probably going to represent the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals this June. But it's not special because there are 5 games and not 1 or 2. And that's what the NBA needs to understand. They have diluted their own product in so many ways and taken away the specialness of Christmas. Because that's what it was. You wouldn't just get your hardcore NBA fans, and you wouldn't just get the fans that are not hardcore NBA but like the NBA and watch it at least once or twice a week. You would get the casuals, the people who probably don't watch a lot of NBA, maybe watch none of it, and Christmas is their first exposure to it because it's on national television and there's not much else on, and they watch it, and that's the people you need to reel in. Those are the people that can make your sports league a lot of money.
Any more questions?
Because they're the people that are going to buy the stuff, and they're the people that you can hook. And that's what the NBA should be doing on Christmas, is trying to hook the casual fans. They're not doing that. And the ratings reflect it. And, of course, there's all kinds of other things on Christmas now. There's college basketball, and, of course, the occasional NFL and these kinds of things. So, and A Christmas Story, 24 hours on TNT and all that sort of stuff. But if the NBA wants to fix their Christmas problem, let's make it special again. Let's have 2 games on ABC, since that's the network that carries it now. 5:30 and 8:30, with a nice big build-up for both games, and make sure you're getting your 3 or 4 of your 5 or 6 best teams in it. So you get, and of course, if the Warriors are any kind of good and Steph Curry's healthy, you make sure you get them in there, obviously. But you get the Bucks with Giannis Antetokounmpo. You get the Celtics with Jason Tatum, who quite frankly looks like the best player in the NBA right now. You get the best teams. You get the best teams. You get the best players. And again, you don't need a lot of games. You don't need 5 games. And that's the other thing. The anticipation. That was the other thing. Because you knew, yes, 5:30 seemed a long way away on Christmas morning. But how excited were you? And I can speak from experience on this. I couldn't wait for 5:30. I wasn't a Knicks fan or a Bulls fan. When they got here, you can bet I was watching, because it's like, this is going to be a big game. This is going to be a great game. This is going to be an event. And it was, whether it was at Chicago Stadium or the Garden or wherever it was. You knew it was coming on. You couldn't wait for it. You don't have that when it's noon. Oh, the first game's at noon. Okay, I'll watch a little bit of this and whatever. And it takes the specialness of it away.
Of all the losers, you came in first of that group.
And that's what the NBA needs to bring back if they want to fix their problem on Christmas. The good news is it's going to be a long time before Christmas falls on a Sunday again. And hopefully the NFL will stay out of it, because they should stay out of it. So that's it for me for Rodent Sports. Hope you enjoyed this video. Comment, like, subscribe, share it around. We love the conversation. And until next time.